Hello again and welcome back to our course on Project 2019 Advanced. In the preceding section we looked at importing data into Project, and in this section we're going to do the opposite. We're going to export data from Project. I'm primarily concerned here with exporting data so that it can be used as data in another application, but I will briefly touch on a couple of cases where we are exporting data in a form where it can't be manipulated, such as in the form of an image. So let's start with what is probably the simplest of all the ways, and that is in the form of copy and paste. Now, the extent to which copy and paste is effective depends on what you are pasting the data into. So we're going to start with a Microsoft Word document, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a part of a plan into a Word document. So I'm using version 17 of the website project, and I'm going to make a selection within my table. So I'm going to select from requirements all the way down to the bottom of testing. And I'm just going to copy that to the clipboard. So you can do Control C, or you can go to Task, and we can select Copy from the ribbon, like so. Now I'm going to switch back into Word, and I'm going to do a paste. So again, I'm just going to click the top part of this paste button, and you can now see the pasted detail from the plan. Now in doing this, what Word has done is to do a reasonably good job of representing not only the style of this part of the table, but also things like the indentation of the text to reflect the structure of the project and also the formatting and so on. So because Word is pretty good at that sort of thing, it does do a pretty good job. So let me do the same thing into Notepad. So I'm starting with a new Notepad document here, and I'm just going to do a paste as well. So again, Control V or Edit, Paste. Now when I paste it into Notepad, I still get the data, but I've lost a lot of the structure. I've lost things like bolding of the text, and of course I've lost the alignment as well. Now it may be that I'm using Notepad to create a text file in order to interchange this data with another system. So text files, CSV files, etc. are often used for interchange. But it's important to understand that when you do that, you do lose a certain amount of the information from the source. And in particular, you'll almost always lose things like styling information and very often alignment and things like that. However, in this particular case, the presence of the tab characters that you can't currently see does mean that it should be possible to successfully import this data into another application. So let me close Notepad for the moment. And I'm going to undo the paste that I did in Word. And I'm going to do this paste to Word slightly differently. So on this occasion, I'm going to go up to the paste button, and I'm going to click the lower half, and I'm going to preview all of the other paste options that I have. So first of all, we have Keep Source Formatting. And this is the equivalent of the paste that we did before, where the formatting of the pasted data is the same as in the source. So in this case, Microsoft Project. The second one is Merge Formatting. In this case, what Project is doing is to use the style in the target document, the Word document, and the table of data is being formatted using that. The third option is Picture, which will paste an image, a picture of the selection that we've made in Project. And the final option is Keep the Text Only, and that's quite similar really to pasting into Notepad. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to go down to Paste Special. And with the Paste Special dialog, not only do we have alternative ways of pasting this data, but we can also do a paste link. And with a paste link, this creates a shortcut to the source file, and any changes in the source file will be reflected in this document. So let's suppose that I set this up using a paste link, and we'll say Unformatted Text, and click on OK. And let's just scroll up to the top. Now you'll see here requirements definition, 65 days, June the 10th, 2019. Let's jump back to our project file. So here we have requirements definition, 65 days. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify this. So I'm going to change this to 70 days. And let's go back to our Word file. And if we take a look at the top where it says requirements definition, it still says 65 days. Now, sometimes depending on what your settings are, this will update automatically. So if you have fields set to update automatically, that should automatically change. Now because mine hasn't, I'm going to right click and I have an option to update link. And that will do a refresh with the source file, and you can see that that's now changed to 70 days. So I've actually set up a dynamic link from project into Word that can be very useful as well if you want to make sure that the document in Word is dynamically being updated with the correct equivalent data from a project. Now, so far the examples of exporting data that we've covered have produced editable data in the target application. So having exported the data, we can do more work on it in that target application. But sometimes what you need is information which you can't really export in an editable form, but which you do need to be able to export to use elsewhere. One of the sort of classic examples of this is one where you want a section of a plan, say a middle section of this plan. So let's jump back to our Gantt chart, where you want to include the Gantt chart part as well. So I'm talking about this information over here. Now, of course, there are very few software applications that can edit Gantt charts like this, and even then, when you export it, you're not really editing the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is a representation of what's in the table, but you can produce a static graphic image which does represent the content of all or part of a plan, and I want to quickly cover that here. So let me once again select the middle section of that plan, so from requirements down to the end of testing. And I'm going to go up to the copy button, but this time I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to say copy picture. Now I get a choice. Do I want to copy it for the screen, for the printer, or to a GIF image file? So let's suppose that I'm going to save this as a GIF image file. So let me browse to a location where I want to save it, and I'm just going to save it into My Pictures and click on OK. Now I choose, do I want all of the rows on the screen or the selected rows? And I'm going to say selected rows. And do I want the timescale as shown on the screen or only over a particular range of dates? And the dates that I'm offered there are from March the 1st, 2019 to January the 1st, 2020. Now in this case, I'm going to set this back to the beginning of the project, and my project begins on the 1st of April. And I'm going to click on OK. And my GIF file has been created. So let me switch back to Word and let's insert the GIF file into my Word document. So up to Insert, Pictures. I'm going to select my file and click on Insert. And there we go. We have a picture of those tasks inserted into the Word document, and this is not editable. So we've covered the copy and paste style of options for exporting. Let's look now at the Save As options. So I'm back to my project file. I'm going to go up to File and down to Save As. I'm going to click Browse. And when it comes to saving an Mpp file, the options you have are first of all for Microsoft Project format. So that's the current one and the previous one, including the template variants. Then we have PDF and XPS, both of which produce what are in effect non-editable sets of data. Now technically with both of those there are options for the being able to edit them, but they are really intended to be non-editable read-only versions of an extract of data from a plan. Then we have the various different Excel formats, which you should be familiar with by now, and I'll come back to Excel again in just a moment. Then we have options for text, CSV and XML. All of these three formats are primarily used for data interchange, although with all three of them there are some instances where they're used for other purposes. So let's just demonstrate one of these. Let's demonstrate CSV, or comma delimited value, and click on Save. Now, depending on your Trust Center settings, you may or may not be allowed to save in this file format. If you aren't allowed, you'll get some instructions on the screen which will tell you that you need to change your legacy options in your Trust Center settings, which you'll find through File Options. So if you do get a message like that, just jump into there and select Allow to save to other file formats. So once you've saved, you'll get the Export Wizard pop-up. So let's click Next to go past the welcome screen. And we know a bit about maps now, so I'm going to use a new map and click on Next. And the information that I'm going to export, well, I'm only going to export those tasks again. And note down the bottom here that I can actually choose my delimiter. So although we usually refer to CSV as comma-separated values, sometimes you might have something else separating the values, whether it be a tab, a space, a different sort of delimiter. So I'm going to stick with comma. I'm going to make sure I've got export includes headers, and I'm going to click on next. And now I'm going to set up a mapping. So I can really map any field in the task data for this project to any field in the CSV file. So let me just choose one or two straightforward options. So up here, what about, let's start with, we're going to say name. And we're going to map it to text field name. And the next one might be start, and we want to map that to start date. Maybe we also have finish, which we want to map to finish date. And that's all I'm going to do, is this is just a brief example, and then I'm going to click on the finish button. Now let me open that CSV file in Notepad. So I'm going to say File, Open, select my file and click on Open. And there it is. You can see my header row, name, start date, finish date. And then I have the website title, which is just website 17 in this case, comma, then the start date, comma, then the finish date. Note also these double commas here. These correspond to the empty rows in the Mpp file. I'd need to be a bit wary of that because basically you wouldn't normally expect them to do any harm on import because you'd hope that the import facility would be able to deal with those. But other than that, the data looks absolutely fine. So that is another export option. Now this time let's look at exporting into Excel. So again, the same process. I'm going to go up to File, down to Save As, and browse to my folder. And this time I'm going to save as an Excel workbook. I'm just going to give this one a slightly different name and click on Save. And again, I have that export wizard appear on the screen, so I'm going to click through Next. I'm going to say I want to export my selected data and click Next. Now this time I'm going to say Use Existing Map and click Next. And once again I get a list of all of the maps that I have saved into the organizer. So if you have a map set up here, you can use it. But just to demonstrate something slightly different, I'm going to export the earned value information for this particular set of data and click Next. And again, the type of data that I want to export, I just want to export the tasks. And I'm going to say export includes headers and click Next. And there we go. Now we have task mapping for earned value. So again, Project has done its best to marry up the different fields. So we have ID in Microsoft Project is mapped to ID in Excel. And as we've seen before, you can look through these, and any which look a little bit wrong, you can change those if you want to. Now I'm going to say that I'm pretty much happy with how these look, and I'm going to click on Finish. And now I'm going to open that file up in Excel. And there we go. Now I've actually just tidied this up a little bit. I've widened out the columns and I've applied some table style formatting, but you can see that that's actually looking pretty good, and we then have a workable version in Excel. So that's it on importing and exporting. The only thing we have left to do is the exercise, which I'm going to set you in the next section. So I will see you then.